It is 12 days to the December polls, and welcome to News Night. Tonight, CHRAJ declares $312 million National Cathedral construction contract awarded to Rabadi Company Limited. It raises reasonable suspicion of corruption and corruption-related offences. Details as CHRAJ recommends a cancellation of the contract, describing it as illegal because it was contrary to the Public Procurement Act.
Very far-reaching findings. These are very, very damning, explosive findings.
Plus, Secretary to the Board, Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng, cleared of all conflict of interest allegations, but the Auditor General has now been recommended to look into the matter further. We'll hear from former Auditor General Daniel Domelevo. Also tonight here on News Night, Minority in Parliament's Energy Committee raises alarm as it says the current erratic power supply has forced Bui Power Authority to run dam beyond its capacity over the last 2 weeks, warning it will compromise its integrity.
I'm very worried about the state of the Bui Dam, because the Bui Dam was constructed to serve as a peaking plant. For the past 2 weeks, they've been running the plant continuously, 24/7, just to augment for the load shedding that we are currently experiencing.
We'll bring you details as ECG explains why it decided to halt payments to Sono Nasogli under its new payment arrangement with the power producer. Meanwhile, certain customers of ECG are no longer required to buy power in advance as previously advised by the company. Details as ECG says it is working to resolve the challenge.
So we completed the rollover on the 24th of November. So as we speak, customers are not supposed to top up.
On the campaign trail today, some traditional leaders in the Western region decried the neglect by government as Impoho Queen Mother breaks down over galamsey and infrastructure woes when former President Mahama called on them.
We all our roads are in terrible conditions.
Details as John Mahama promises to prioritize the people. Also, Mahama cannot be trusted to deliver a 24-hour economy due to failure to provide 12 hours of electricity. President Akufo-Addo punches holes into the former president's campaign promises.
I saw the 24-hour economy now. Light for 12 hours. Light for 12 hours. Light for 12 hours. And then going to be a 24-hour economy.
Also, Vice President Baumia says government has provided more than 1,000 homes for security personnel and helped pay rent for over 2,000 tenants across the country in a bid to address the country's housing crisis. We have details for you from the campaign trail in business.
City's good run expected to be sustained as Bank of Ghana continues with significant dollar support for the market.
And in sports, Ghana defender Ali Duseidu ruled out for the rest of the 2024-25 season after rupturing his ACL.
You want to stay with views and comments or here on News Night 055-1111-997. We start with that major developing story from CHRAJ. It follows CHRAJ's recommendation of an immediate termination of the National Cathedral construction contract, and that report is now out. The contract, which CHRAJ found was illegally awarded to Rabadi Limited in a sum of a staggering $312 million, has been the subject of public controversy following a series of publications by NDC MP for North Tongue, Samuel Okudeta Blakwan. If you're just joining us, I want to quickly summarize that for you. My colleague Kweku Asante is joining me. We'll be speaking pretty shortly with also Daniel Domelevo on this because of the recommendation we've seen in that report by CHRAJ asking the Auditor General to open a fresh investigation into the matter. And Kweku, let's go through the essential points in this particular report released today by CHRAJ. And I noticed that one of the first key things that the CHRAJ points out is that the National Cathedral of Ghana is a public property held in trust for the Republic of Ghana by the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board. And that is essential because of the question of the use of public funds.
Yes, exactly, Evans. It continues. If you look at the key findings of CHRAJ, that if you look at the way the contract was awarded by the Board of Trustees to the contractor, again, CHRAJ says that was without recourse to the concurrent approval by the Central Tender Review Committee, a key requirement of the Procurement Act having regards to the contract sum. It continues on page 159.7 that the National Cathedral of Ghana did not strictly comply with the rules of the public procurement provided for Act 663, amended by Act 914, when it purported to select and award the contract for the construction of the National Cathedral to Ribadi Company Limited. It says the contract awarded Ribadi Company Limited for the construction of the National Cathedral is illegal and void ab initio. It continues that the procurement breaches that occasioned part of the contract to Ribadi Company Limited raises reasonable suspicion of corruption and corruption-related offences. And then, Evans, if you come down to the decisions, the key decisions and that have been made, the committee finds, the CHRAJ, I should say, finds that it appears the National Cathedral Board of Trustees conducted affairs when it comes to the National Cathedral in such a laissez-faire manner that did not comply with so many rules, including the Companies Act, as regards to the writing of minutes. Evans, there is a matter of 2.6 million Ghana cedis purported to have been advanced as a loan from a company that Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng is a director of to the company. And according to the findings of CHRAJ, Victor Kusi-Boateng told them that when it comes to matters having to do with issues like that, you meet as a board of trustees and they take decisions once they have an agreement without taking minutes. I quote, it says that on the issue of the absence of minutes, the board chair of the third respondent stated that the board chair is the Reverend Poko. It says documentations on issues involving the National Cathedral of Ghana and JNS Talent Ghana Limited. Kindly note that it was a normal administrative transaction and was therefore not recorded in the minutes of the board. It was an offer made by JNS Limited, which was paid within a short period. And then Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng himself tells CHRAJ that our modus operandi, and I quote, is that we agree among ourselves and not to take minutes of directors' meeting. CHRAJ says this is rather a very unfortunate situation, and danger of such informality in the handling of affairs is evidence in the situation where the resolution of JNS Company Limited, which is a fifth respondent company, to transfer the money to the National Cathedral predated the formal request of the money. In light of the foregoing, and in light of the commission taking notice of the fact that the board of trustees are all clergymen who may or may not have been well versed in corporate governance, the commission recommends additional capacity building for directors and in these matters. And then it concludes crucially by saying that accordingly, the commission recommends that the Auditor General should conduct a forensic audit on the construction of the National Cathedral project from its inception to date to ascertain whether the monies released for its construction have been properly utilized. Having found that the contract awarded to Ribadi is void ab initio, it goes on and on to make certain more conclusions.
And they also clarify how much has been spent on the National Cathedral so far. I put the figure to 225,962,500 cedis so far. I want to bring in Daniel Demelevo. He's the former Auditor General himself. Daniel, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. First, give me your quick reaction to this finding by CHRAJ.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you and your listeners. I think the findings seems to be in order. I cannot think otherwise than what they have recommended, because unfortunately all the trustees involved in this are clergymen and they go by the Bible, but public financial management does not go by the Bible. It is guided by the Constitution, the PFM Act, the Procurement Act, Internal Audit Act, Audit Service Act, etc. There are several laws that regulate them. So listening to what you have just said, which according to you is from CHRAJ, I think there are infractions or suspected infractions that may need further investigation.
You agree with the recommendation then that the Auditor General must do what CHRAJ calls a forensic investigation to ascertain whether monies released for the construction have been properly utilized?
Yes, I do agree with that recommendation, because we need to go deeper than what we are being told by CHRAJ, because there are two key issues here. Use of public funds, that is one. Or release of public funds, that is one. And two, the use of it in procurement. According to Article 178 of the Constitution, you cannot use consolidated fund unless it is a charge on appropriation, it is by supplementary act, or it's an appropriation act. It must be approved by Parliament. And clause 2 says that even if it is not from the consolidated fund, but it's any other fund, it must be authorized by the act which established that fund. So we need to see that there is a law permitting the use of public fund for the cathedral. Was it in an appropriation, a subsidiary appropriation, etc.? That must be established beyond doubt. That is the first one. Secondly, it is a public funds which has gone to the trustees. So they are supposed to use the Public Procurement Act. And if what I'm hearing from your narrative, the narrations your colleague gave is something to go by, it means that there were violations of the Public Procurement Act. That calls to question clause 7 of Article 187 of the Constitution, which says that the Auditor General, in the performance of his functions under the Constitution or any other law, if he comes across any item of expenditure contrary to law, here contrary to the Procurement Act, he may surcharge the person or persons who authorized or approved that expenditure. And if you remember, in Occupy Ghana versus Attorney General, the Supreme Court unanimously agreed and actually gave consequential orders to the Auditor General that anytime he is auditing or doing his work and comes across any item of expenditure which is contrary to law, he has no option. In fact, they interpreted the may to say it is not may any longer, it will be shall. And the Constitution used the may because we can't say all audits should result in surcharge. But anytime the Auditor General finds an infraction or expenditure contrary to law, he shall disallow and surcharge. So I think it is in order that the Auditor General goes deep into it, find out whether there is any breaches or infractions of the law in the course of the use of the money, especially the release of the money from the consolidated fund, whether the Minister of Finance breached it. He may have to be held accountable. If he didn't breach, but the procurement process was breached by the trustees, then unfortunately they are men of God. But public funds, they must be held accountable.
Is the Auditor General mandated to do this, and you trust that the current establishment there, the leadership, will take this on as has been recommended and do a good job?
Well, that one I cannot express opinion on it. I don't want to say that he will do it or he may not do it. It is better we get to the bridge and see how we cross it. It is good this recommendation goes to the Auditor General for us or to see whether he will ignore it or he will take it up.
At this stage, it's a recommendation. The Auditor General, can it be petitioned? Let's assume they haven't seen or heard. But because it's coming from CHRAJ, do you expect that CHRAJ will directly hand a copy to them, this recommendation, and work with them to execute this? And because you were there before, what works? How does it work?
Two things. I think under the CHRAJ, the article on CHRAJ can actually recommend investigation or issues to be investigated by the Auditor General. If you read the article on the CHRAJ side, I mastered that area, so I can't quote it directly. But if you read it, that mandate already exists with the CHRAJ. That is one. Secondly, under the Audit Service Regulation itself, I think from Regulation 50 going, I'm not too sure, between 50 and 65, you will see that the regulation provides for the Auditor General receiving complaints, even from the public, and acting on them, on abuse or misuse of public funds. So it is within the legal mandate of anybody who thinks that it must be done to present it, including CHRAJ. CHRAJ, I think, has a constitutional right to approach the Auditor General and can also go under the Audit Service Regulation and approach the Auditor General. Or you and I, if you hold that report, we can approach the Auditor General, petition him that there is a suspected abuse or misuse of public funds, and so he should do the investigation.
I mean, this finding also activates the mandate of the special prosecutor, does it not? Because it says there's a reasonable basis for corruption or corruption-related offences in the award of this particular contract. That triggers automatically the special prosecutor's powers.
Yes, not only the suspected corruption and corruption-related offences, but also I think I heard breaches of procurement laws, and that also falls within the mandate of the special prosecutor. If you remember, I filed a suit against what do you call it, OSP. No, not OSP. The other one, where Mamitiwa is. That's the name. Yoko. I filed. There's a suit which is headed Auditor General versus office. So, and in that ruling, actually the High Court ruled that all procurement offences of that nature fall under the mandate of the OSP. So I'm convinced, and I'm of the view that that recommendation is also in order. But one does not exclude the other. Mind you, the OSP is going to address the criminal aspect of the offense. The Auditor General is addressing the civil side of it. So the Auditor General may exercise his mandate, disallow the expenditure, surcharge them, recover the money for the Republic, whilst the special prosecutor prosecute them for committing a crime. And if found guilty, they go inside or they pay a fine.
And Daniel, thank you very much for joining us here on Newsnight on this developing story, and wherever you are tonight, major developing story from CHRAJ tonight on the back of its findings into the investigations it's been conducting over the period into the National Cathedral project. It has found that the contract that was awarded for the construction of the National Cathedral was done in breach of the public procurement regulations in this country, and is actually recommending some prosecutions, also recommending that the Auditor General opens a probe into the matters. We've been listening to the man who took this matter up and filed that complaint with CHRAJ that formed the basis of the investigation. Samuel Kudita-Blakwa, listen to him.
Very, very damning, explosive findings, and it confirms all the issues that we had raised. This whole project started on the basis of deception, a grand attempt to mislead the general public, the clergy, and the Almighty. You recall the president said that they were not using public funds. This was a private project. CHRAJ has confirmed what we discovered, that apparently on the blind side of Parliament, on the blind side of all of us, contrary to massively, overwhelmingly funded by taxpayer funds, and the shocking levels of lack of transparency, lack of accountability. And CHRAJ is saying in his report that the massive breach in our procurement laws gives CHRAJ the basis to conclude that there is reasonable grounds for corruption and corruption-related offenses to have occurred. And that is why CHRAJ is calling for prosecution. CHRAJ is saying that the Auditor General should quickly move in and conduct a forensic audit. CHRAJ is also saying that it is really crucial that there is a value for money audit, that what they see, the amount of money expended, does not really them the $58 million spent on this project. What we should be seeing is what we are seeing. That's the world's most expensive pit, as it has now been christened. That should not have the value of $58 million. So this is a very, very damning report, which confirms all the things we have been talking about, and those who sought to create the impression that we were just engaged in propaganda and that we didn't have any basis for the criticism against the National Cathedral project. I believe that the evidence, what CHRAJ has put forth, should settle the matter.
And that there is Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, and he took that case up with CHRAJ. But we also know that this report also exonerates Victor Kwesi Boateng, a.k.a. Kwabena Edu-Jemfi. The matter was brought before CHRAJ to investigate him for conflict of interest. CHRAJ declared him of that. But another damning recommendation and decision of CHRAJ in this particular report is one that borders on the Board of Trustees. And CHRAJ concludes by saying the Commission further recommends for further investigation and possible prosecution of the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral, who superintended over the award of the contract to Rabadi Company in disregard to Act 663 as amended. Now, these breaches of the procurement laws have the potential of causing international embarrassment to the country, considering its international status and that of Rabadi Company Limited. So CHRAJ tonight recommending for further investigations and possible prosecution the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. Now, you need to check out the caliber of individuals on the Board of Trustees who are now subject recommendation to be prosecuted. And it includes Apostle Professor Opoku Enyina, a former chairman of the Church of Pentecost, the chairperson of the board, Archbishop Charles Palmer Buckle, a Metropolitan Catholic Archbishop of Cape Coast, Vice Chairman. And you just go into the National Cathedral website and they have the list of the trustees there. Most Reverend Bishop Justice Ofeya Akrofi, former Anglican Archbishop, Emeritus member. Most Reverend T.K. Awotre Pratt, former presiding Bishop, Methodist Church member. Right Reverend Professor Emmanuel Mate, former moderator of the Presbyterian Church, member. You have Reverend Dr. Joyce Ayi, Executive Director of Salt and Light Ministries, member. You have Reverend Victor Kwesi Boateng, who has been cleared of conflict of interest by CHRAJ, founder of Power Chapel Worldwide, a member. Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso, General Superintendent, Assemblies of God, member. And Kingsley Ofosu in Tiamwa, who is Executive Director and Ghana Museums and Monuments Board member. And you also have the Secretariat there. But the recommendation from CHRAJ tonight is that these board members should be prosecuted. And we know that some of the board members resigned before this investigations was completed, and a host of them indeed, they raised concerns on their question is whether or not this recommendation will affect them, seeing that they were there at some point. Resigned. Dakeward Mills, founder of Lighthouse Church, and Professor Menyo, a former moderator of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, resigned, and we know and spelled out why they're resigning, raising concerns about the conduct of the Secretariat itself. Has to do with the National Cathedral, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, as seeing as a lot of us were invested heavily in this particular matter and raged on for quite a while. Thoughts 055-11-11-997. So listen to News 9 here on Joy 99.7 FM. The minority in Parliament's Energy Committee says the current erratic power supply situation has forced the Bui Power Authority to run the dam beyond its full capacity. Currently, Sono Nasogli and 4 other independent power producers are contributing 0 megawatts to the national grid. Acting Managing Director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, David Asamoah, says the company has agreed with Sono Nasogli to settle hundreds of millions of dollars owed the independent power producer through new payment arrangement.
I have Sonia Sobri off, which is not a secret. Everybody is aware. Sonia Sobri has gone off because of debt. But the good news of Sonia Sobri is that they are going to be back in the coming weeks, because we are almost resolved the issue that made them go off. Almost. We started paying them. Then we are also having a plan of how we'll be paying weekly basis, this time not monthly, and to show good faith, to show that it is not that we are talking, but we are acting. We shut off on the 8th of the previous month, October. We paid that week, then the following week we paid. But because the payment was not sufficient, they decided they are not coming back. Then I halted the payment because I thought that if people are generating and giving, And if I don't pay those generating who are still generating, then it will be unfair for me to collect the money from the sales that I make from the energy they sell to pay Asobri. So I went off.
But you already owe them. You already owe them. You owe them a debt. So you cannot say since they have gone off and they are not generating you won't pay them.
No, the reason is let me come in. You know, the money we collect per month is only able to pay everybody full. So if I knew that we owe at the time, and if you see me in the midst of the debt, I mean, in business, it makes business sense that I continue to have that faith and pay the one who is currently producing.
But Ranking Member on Parliament's Energy Committee, John Junapo, says that arrangement is simply not sustainable.
When there's a problem, instead of admitting that there's a problem and dealing with it, they tend to engage in falsehoods and fabrication. This would not work. As we speak, I'm very worried about the state of the Bui Dam, because the Bui Dam was constructed to serve as a peaking plant. For the past 2 weeks, they've been running the plant continuously, 24/7, just to augment for the load shedding that we are currently experiencing. And even with that, they are still shedding load. My fear is that the integrity of the dam is being compromised on the altar of political gain. The industry players and the stakeholders must speak against it. Government must face the truth, be honest to the people of Ghana. Even currently, as they are shedding load, the president is out there denying it. And people are witnessing the load shedding. So this idea of weekly payment is not the solution.
But if you want government to come out and say the truth, what truth are you expecting to hear from government?
First of all, the truth is that they don't have the money to pay the IPPs. Secondly, there's load shedding ongoing currently. And yes, some officials are denying it. And if you open your phone line, you'll get confirmation from the public. Today, there'll be load shedding, because the amount of power being generated is not enough to meet demand. And I'm saying that ECG's statement that they'll be paying weekly is completely false, because it cannot hold. Most payments are made at the end of the month, especially postpaid customers. So where are they going to get those weekly payments? But because of the depreciation of the currency, the amount being collected is woefully inadequate to pay the IPP.
There's some focus now on the Bui power plant, is the hydropower plant. Indeed, in the wake of the challenges that the thermal plants are facing, the question is, can Bui contribute enough to keep the lights on? My colleague Papani Ashale joins me in the studio with more on this. How much power does Bui generate?
Okay, Evan. So we know that Bui is in two parts. The hydro power plants aspect that has an installed capacity of 404 megawatts, and the Bui solar, which also has an installed capacity of 55 megawatts. When combined, the Bui power source has an installed capacity of 459 megawatts generating capacity. On dependable capacity basis, the country can depend on the Bui power source for only 415 megawatts. This is just about 27.3% of Ghana's hydro and solar dependable capacity. This is according to the 2024 mid-year energy outlook published by the Energy Commission.
And tell us about how Bui hydropower plants operates. I mean, we've heard it's a peaking plant, but it's been overused now. What do we know?
So, Evans, from what we know from the plan, unlike the Akosombo and Kpong hydropower plants that will be operating at full capacity with all their gears available, the Energy Commission explains that the Bui hydropower plant is expected to continue to operate 1 unit off peak hours and a maximum of 2 units at peak hours. In fact, they clarified that all 3 units will be dispatched to meet demand only in critical situations. So that's what exactly we know.
And there's a lot of focus also tonight on the independent power producers who have tonight shut down and contributing 0 megawatts to the national grid. So what is the status of the national power grid as we speak after all these independent power producers decided not to contribute power anymore? So Sonasogri obviously taking the lead on that. My colleague Kweku Asante has details from a copy of the great report as we have secured it.
The great report that we have seen, 7 producers, including Amandi, Kalio Solar, TE66, as well as Car Power, were contributing 0 megawatts to the national grid. The other 3 were Sogli, Siemens, and Bui Solar. As of this morning, the situation has improved marginally. Kalio Solar and Bui Solar are back on stream, providing a total of 8 megawatts to the national grid, while the other 5, all independent producers, Amandi, TE66, Car Power, Sogli, and Siemens, are still off. And just a bit of some context, if you look at the 2024 mid-year energy outlook, Ghana's dependable capacity is estimated at 4,855 megawatts. If you take out these power producers, that stands at 3,204 megawatts. If you compare this also to the dependable capacity, it leaves a gap of 1,651 megawatts of power. Currently, at peak hours, the country demands 3,732 megawatts, and that is about 528 megawatts higher than what we currently produce. And so that means currently we short about 528 megawatts, and that will mean at peak hours the lights are going to go off.
Let's speak to a man who himself dealt with this challenge back then. He's a former power minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, with decades of experience on this particular side. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Newsnight. This comes down to government to find the money to pay the IPPs. As we know, Sono Nasoglu was the first to go. Now a few more have followed. Do you see any alternatives for government out of this quagmire?
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Donkor. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Great. I'm asking you, based on your own experience in dealing with these challenges, this comes down to government's ability to find the money for the IPPs. Many of them, as we know, in addition to Sono Nasoglu, at least 3 more have decided to shut their plants and contributing 0 tonight. Do you see any alternatives out for government?
Well, yes, government has to eat humble pie and engage the IPPs in a fruitful negotiation. One of the plans, the plan, is owned by SNEC. So it is not for political or other reasons. These are real technical, economic reasons. A power plant will need some amount of money for operational expenses, what we call OPEX in the trade. They will need to pay salaries, they need to routine maintenance, the other things that go to make a power plant vibrant. They would need a certain minimum inflow of financial resources to do that. If you are unable to do that, then definitely, no matter the goodwill, the plant cannot run. So that is the bottom line. What government has to do is to engage them and find at the minimum money to cover their OPEX, their operational expenditure. And then they can reschedule with good faith the payment of the outstanding. We are where we are for largely 2 reasons. One is the poor management of monetary and fiscal policy. We have so mismanaged the macro economy that it impacts so negatively on the energy sector. If you look at the 2023 audited financials of ECG made a loss of about 10.2 billion cedis for 2023. Out of that 10.2 billion, 8.3 billion cedis was attributable to exchange losses. And therefore, if we had a stable currency and some amount of efficiency, ECG would have at the minimum broken even. So that is the real crash. ECG's payables are dollar denominated and their receivables are cedi denominated. And when you so mismanage both fiscal and monetary policy, then you create a problem.
You've recommended that should have a conversation. And over the last 1 year, for more than a year, government has been negotiating. In fact, there was a point where it was announced that they reached an agreement for some of the IPPs to take a haircut. And that the ECG henceforth will remain current. As we know, I've been reading from the PURC report, that has become a challenge in itself. But it's a simple one, is it not? Because ECG...
No, that was not truthful. Remember, some of the IPPs came out at that time that they had not reached any agreement. You see, propaganda can carry you so far, but reality will hit you. Unfortunately, I am not knowledgeable when it comes to propaganda. I rather would deal with the facts, technical and economic knowledge. And these are the facts. We are under recovering costs. So with the best effort of ECG, we cannot pay because we are under recovering costs. If you remember, a number of years ago in petroleum, the Ghanaian state was paying under recovery to importers. We are in that situation. We are under recovering costs. And because we are under recovering costs, the Ghanaian state will have to make up the difference. Particularly so when ECG is solely owned by the good people of Ghana. So we have a challenge. Concede we have a challenge. Invite all stakeholders to the table and negotiate in good faith.
You think government hasn't negotiated in good faith over the last year?
Why do you tell people you have reached an agreement when the players say you have not? Is that good faith?
Former Prime Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo, thank you very much. And I want to hear from you. Are you in darkness tonight? Share your thoughts, 055-11-11997. Just been listening there to former Prime Minister Dr. Akufo-Addo. Joining me in the studio right now is George. We are filled with business, but we have a few of your messages on our WhatsApp console I want to bring to you on the stories that we've been looking at so far. And I know many of you are interested in the story about the National Cathedral and the findings of CHRAJ. And this one says it is shocking inside the members of the clergy, who are the moral gauge bearers in our affairs as a country, are locked up in this web of negotiating corruption and double standards on the thorny issues of the National Cathedral. And that there is Sika at University of Ghana responding to the findings of CHRAJ. And another one from Sami in Kumasi says, don't all these renowned men of God study the contractual documents on the National Cathedral before accepting to be members of the Board of Trustees? Long life and more strength to enable Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa to continue to expose rot in the system. Just a few of your comments on that major developing story. And George, what do you have in the headlines of business tonight?
Well, Evans, news coming in suggests that government has reached a deal with Sonia Sogli Power Plant, a move that has resulted in the firm resuming operations today, and city's good run expected to be sustained as Bank of Ghana continues with the significant dollar support for the market. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business, Kingdom Books and Stationery. You welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, government has reached a deal with the independent power producer Sonia Sogli over payment of debts owed the institution by the Electricity Company of Ghana. Sources say some payments were made today. This has resulted in the resumption of operations by the power plant. Now, officials close to the firm have also confirmed this development to Joy Business that they are back in operations today. The firm shut down its operations last month over debts running into $259 million owed by the Electricity Company of Ghana. Meanwhile, energy analyst Dr. Yusuf Suleiman had blamed the earlier challenge over how government handled the negotiations with these firms. The Suleiman has also been making some proposals on the way forward and how to avoid the challenge again.
But overall, we need to encapsulate all the IPPs together. So how do you get around with these challenges, and whether we have to persistently be in this firefighting mode? I've always believed that if you look at a couple of ways, strategies that we can get around, some short, some to medium to long, and others long term. The short term strategy that I think we can get around, however temporary that could be, is to ensure that even the little amount that we collect, we ensure fairness in the distribution. Because at the end of the day, these IPPs, they are very much aware how much ECG collects. So even if ECG doesn't collect that amount to be able to get, them the required or the needed percentages that they need, to actually work efficiently, but there's a guaranteed.
Dr. Yusuf Suleiman is an energy analyst. Now, the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies pushing for a limit to be placed on the number of oil firms that can operate in the country. Ghana is said to have more than 150 oil marketing firms, which is said to be high for a small economy like Ghana. Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Rivers Nopon, noted that development is impacting on regulations.
We are more than Nigeria has in terms of oil marketing company. Look at the size of Nigeria and the population of Nigeria. I've been told also that by end of December we should expect more OMCs to come. And I don't know what they're going to do. To take 1,000 students in terms of facility-wise, and the student number outgrows to be 2,000, you suffer. Because now people would have to now do morning session and go, and people have to come in the afternoon. Regulation-wise, it's tough. In Ghana, it's just so obvious that someone started a business. It's going so well. How do you do it? And I also put myself in it. I still don't understand how oil marketing companies with 7 stations today are breaking even. And that's why we see so many malfunctions. Undercutting, selling lower quantity at the pump. We saw one video recently, even though it's not a recent video, but
it's an old one.
It's an old one, but it's still in the system. You didn't see things like this when you have a minimum number, a handful that you can actually review.
Dr. Rivers Nopon is the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Firms. It appears the cedi's good run might not be ending anytime soon. Now, this because some banks in their latest investor outlook are projecting the cedi could even in some cases appreciate significantly against the US dollar. There is more in the following report.
The projection by the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies is coming at the time that the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Ernest Addison had indicated that the regulator has what it takes to drop the rate to 10 cedis to $1. Last Friday,
we apologize for that wrong sound. Now, Consolidated Bank Ghana has witnessed some significant increase in its profit before tax for the third quarter of this year. The financials released by the bank showed that it went up by more than 300% to reach 170 million Ghana cedis ending in September this year. The bank also showed some turnaround in its operations for the last quarter, that's the third quarter of this year. When it comes to its non-performing loans, it decreased substantially from 17.9% to 11.6% for the third quarter. The revenue, on the other hand, also reached 1 billion Ghana cedis. Now, Mets Africa, in partnership with MasterCard Foundation, has opened its applications for the second cohort of the ED Tech Fellowship in Ghana. Now, this was after successful completion of its first cohort acceleration program. Now, speaking to Joy Business, after a ceremony in Accra, Acting Director of MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovation and Teaching and Learning, Rodwell Migasi, said the agenda is to support government policies on sustainable education.
We had 10 recommendations that have come from ministers of education from all these countries. So in all the work that we do work with the governments to make sure that the educational policies that they have in place, are they enabling the young people of the continent to access quality education. But most importantly, really the work that we are doing with the MasterCard Foundation EdTech Fellowship, it's really to enable people across the continent to access quality education through the use of technology.
Rodwell Mangisi is the acting director for the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovation, Teaching and Learning. And that's all for Business on Newsnight.
And we can do some sports now, and then the Cranton is here with the latest.
Let's go straight into the stories. And Ghana international right back Alidu Seidu has sustained an anterior cruciate ligament rupture in his left knee. His club, Stade Rennes, has confirmed the 20-year-old was substituted in the first half in Rennes' 1-0 away loss to Lille yesterday. Medical exams undertaken earlier today confirmed the severity of the injury. Seidu is not expected to return for the remainder of the season. The injury means Seidu will not be part of Ghana's squad for the World Cup qualifiers in March and June next year. Moving on, the former Black Stars Management Committee member and seasoned football administrator Ernest Thompson believes one of the biggest issues in the Black Stars is disunity in camp. In addition to doubts over the competence of the technical team, Thompson says camp needs to be addressed.
There's spiritualism in that team. There's conflict in that team. They only come and stand on the pitch to behave as if they are together. It is not a football team we have there. You have a group of individuals who are highly conflicted. Ask yourself, and if yes, why would 8 players they are not available simply because a coach, the captain, has been given back to Jordan. There's a problem there. Don't come and tell me that they are not available because they are aged. No, because they are divided. When it's Kudus, some people would like to play and play well. When it's Jordan, there's a problem.
That was former Black Stars Management Committee member Ernest Thompson speaking there, bringing that into sports. Back to you, Vance.
Thank you very much. And this is your election headquarters.
Election Headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol Platinum Energy, Energizing Dreams, Chopbox Technology, a convenient service, German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental, Wellness, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants (CIMA), and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants (AICPA), together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. Youth Break Foundation, bridging the gaps for positive youth development. Syntex Tanks, Air Strong, Air Tough, Potential Real Estate, your trusted partner in real estate. Deluxe Paints, Paints Mu Champion.
And on the campaign trail tonight, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, says government has made significant strides in addressing the housing deficit in the country during an inspection and commissioning of phases 1, 2, 3 of the TDC Affordable Housing Project in Tema. Dr. Bawumia revealed that government has constructed over 1,000 housing units for the security services, ensuring they have access to safe accommodations to support their critical roles in maintaining national security.
To workers. Housing for security services. Our government recognizes the critical role of our security services and has prioritized their housing needs. Over the past 7 years, we have provided 1,000 housing units to the Ghana Police Service in Tema, Kwabenya, and Tesano. These homes offer much-needed accommodation for our hard-working servicemen and women.
On the Store Saglame Housing Project, Dr. Bawumia said work will resume soon after entering into another public-private partnership agreement to oversee its completion.
Gentlemen, regarding the Saglame Housing Project, the government has taken decisive steps to resolve the challenges surrounding its completion. Through executive approval and a rigorous procurement process, a developer has been selected to carry the project forward. The next phase will involve a joint venture arrangement leveraging both the government and private sector equity contributions to deliver this critical project. On the legislative front, the Real Estate Agency Act was passed in 2020 and establishes the Real Estate Agency Council to regulate real estate transactions.
And to the camp of the NDC now, where some traditional leaders in the Western region are lamenting government's neglect of the region during an interaction with the NDC presidential candidate John Mahama. The Queen Mother of Mpoho, Nana Abakra, shed tears over their apparent neglect.
So yekaho sanda wabo bonsam do bebrain zam ofri Western region oba nanso yenya ho mfaso biara.
Let's feel that the Western region is also part of this country. Look at all the resources that come from the Western region, yet we don't receive any benefit.
Inti abeya la yesro mesiafo yen na ye de enderutum yensu resay yenya nam yenya hwe yekwani na nya papa.
We beg. Our water bodies are being destroyed. We can't even catch fishes, and all our roads are in terrible conditions.
Well, NDC presidential candidate John Mahama promised to prioritize the needs of the people.
District Assembly's common fund no mudi no akra. Into DC over a friend yes bra. Besesa dustbins ko ya to dustbins amount. Na DC on can say we hear dustbins. Uncle here dustbins so poor. Would define sika command na ona enkra ne dustbins. This is echo no biaba o me fi enkran. Yama me contract say me besi school dan wo ha. When I catch you say on no priority. Maybe a school dining here in a different place. Enti decentralization district assemblies common fund ebe kan ho na enjuma ekoso at the district level no. Afa districts in the they can't even build common toilets because common fund need na almost district administrative common fund administrators.
And that there is John Mahama, and we are counting down to that major conversation tomorrow on clean air. And if you care about the quality of air you breathe, this is for you. Did you know that air pollution claims an average of 28,000 lives annually in Ghana? One of the biggest offenders is the aging, polluting fleet of commercial public transport known as CHRAJ. In less than 24 hours, Joy News will host a critical dialogue on clean air, examining the manifestos of all political parties to help you make informed choices in 12 days when you vote. And this is the Clean Air and Election 2024 national dialogue. You do not want to miss that. We're going to have key individuals from all the political parties represented. We have Professor Martin Oting Abebio, who is the chair of the NDC Manifesto Subcommittee on Environment, will be debating. We have Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, member of the MPP Manifesto Committee. We have Nana Kwame Bediako himself, as a presidential candidate for the new force. You have CHRAJ Nobi is a spokesperson of the Movement for Change. You do not want to miss this. It's tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Roman Ridge. And this conversation is in partnership, obviously, with the Ghana Institution of Engineering, and you want to be part of that tomorrow. My name is Evan Smith, and that's it for News Night tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening.